In the current budget watch market, there are quite a few boxes that need to be ticked to ensure that your product stays relevant. Gone are the days when just delivering a 40mm sized watch that remotely resembled a Submariner was enough to guarantee a success. We, the consumer, are much more demanding, or should I say sophisticated these days. Not only we kinda take it for granted that we will get all the premium materials, we now also expecting original and interesting designs. So did ZEZAME, one of the brands that recently claimed a stake in the budget watch market, delivered on all these expectations? Well, we have it here. Let's find out. Hello and welcome back. Now, this is not the first watch from ZEZAME on the channel. I recently reviewed one of their quite interesting GMTs, as well as a very unusual bronze diver that is built out of space-age materials from their sister brand Aquatrident, and both of those watches were really good. However, while those watches were somewhat exotic, this particular model, while still featuring an exotic name, can very well be a great go-anywhere, do-anything timepiece, as so-called GADA. However, despite its classic looks, this watch still has a couple of interesting qualities about it that are not particularly obvious, and we will go over them in details in this review. However, just before we get into it, for full transparency, ZEZAME marketing team did send me this watch for review and I get to keep it. On my part, I only agreed to share a comprehensive review of this timepiece as well as point you to ZEZAME product listings, and so all the necessary links, as usual, will be in the description of this video. So, at the first glance, we have here a very classic-looking sport-style watch. Okay, probably the dial has a bit more finesse than the rest of this timepiece, but then again, with this model called the Eyes of the Dragon, the dial kind of becomes a center point of this watch. And yes, it does, with a bit of imagination, resemble a magical eye of a mystical creature. And after seeing this watch in person, the dial has a very subtle sheen to it, which makes it look even more premium than it comes across on the product pictures. I really hope it will be more evident in the video footage. As for the other design elements that stood out for me, well, the beads of rice bracelet, here it is done really well, and not only it features screws for the links connections, which always welcome, we also get here quick release option, which would allow us to swap the bracelet in seconds, especially if you go for the complete set, which includes this good quality leather strap. There is a difference between the purchasing this watch from ZEZAME AliExpress store and from their website. You still get the same watch, of course. However, if you purchase it from ZEZAME website, you will get a full package, so to speak, which includes additional leather strap, a leather travel case, and all the tools required to size the bracelet. Of course, there is a price difference too, which I think is even further exaggerated by the upcoming March sale on AliExpress, which I strongly recommend for you to take a full advantage of. And I should also point out that we get here a slightly unusual movement. Epson YN55A automatic mechanical caliber, which is basically a tried and tested movement built and used by Orient in a variety of their models. In terms of specifications, this movement is very similar to Orient sister brand Seiko's NH35. We also get here 21,600 vibrations per hour frequency and about 40 hours of power reserve. And this movement is also hackable, that is, the second hand will stop when we pull the crown to adjust the time. In terms of dimensions, we have 38mm case diameter, 20mm lugs, case height of 12.6mm and a very well managed lug-to-lug distance of 45mm, which we can take a full advantage of because of the inverted L-links on the supplied beads of rice bracelet. So this watch can comfortably fit wrists starting from about 6 inches or even 5 3/4 of an inch and up. The bracelet has enough links to cover 8.5 inches or about 21 centimeters wrists in circumference, and as supplied, this watch weighs 142 grams and 127 grams after adjusting it to my about 7-inch wrist. So the only somewhat unusual feature on this case is concaved, high-polished fixed bezel. It is not immediately apparent even when looking at the watch straight on. Only after turning it sideways we can clearly see that the bezel is curved inwards rather than outwards, as it is usually the case. Interesting design decision, which will possibly reduce the risk of scratching the high-polished bezel surface. The rest of the case has a very much vintagey field watch, I would say military vibes, with brushed top and brushed flanks, absence of the crown guards, and prominent onion-shaped, really well sculpted screw-down crown. Flipping the case over, and we have a slightly curved scroll caseback with engraved ZEZAME logo and key specifications on the perimeter. And the screw-down crown and a screw-on back case definitely provide sufficient assurance for the declared 100 meters of water resistance, so we can wear this watch even if we go swimming. And the case is adorned with a double-domed raised sapphire crystal, which also seems to have a sufficient amount of anti-reflective coating applied, so definitely no complaints here. And of course, we need to pay special attention to the dial. Quite interestingly, the dial has no applied elements and still looks really premium. The firmware pattern, which starts with a gilt color in the middle, almost fades to black at the perimeter, providing a really good contrast to the printed minute track and hour markers. And I really like the semi-skeletonized cathedral-style hands. And I know that a lot of viewers of this channel will greatly appreciate the date window located at 6 o'clock position, and as such preserving that delicate dial balance that a lot of us find so important. Okay, jokes aside, I think the dial layout and the writing on the dial are really well thought through. The result is well balanced, well spaced and easy to read dial. And of course, we need to look at the lume. And here we have another interesting feature that we don't see very often, lumed date. And not only it is lumed, the date actually has a sufficient amount of lume to be visible almost as long as other elements on the dial. Okay, if I really had to nitpick here, having the same color lume on the hands and on the hour markers would be great, but definitely not something I will be complaining about. And as I noted at the start of this review, the bits of rice bracelet here is done really well. We have a slight taper here from 20mm by the lugs to about 18mm by the clasp. And we have inverted solid stainless steel end links, which integrate with the watch case really well. And these end links also feature very useful quick release spring bars. Each solid stainless steel link of this bracelet is composed of 7 independent elements, which ensures great flexibility and comfort on the wrist. The outer elements of the links are brushed on the top and on the sides, and the middle elements are high polished, and the links are connected by screws. As for the clasp, well, we get here a good robust double pusher clasp with milled inner scissor mechanism. The clasp is also signed, and the outer shell of the clasp has enough macro adjustments to achieve comfortable bracelet fit. Okay, the outer shell is pressed, which is probably not the most premium design decision, however, taking into account that big brands like Seiko and Orient supply pressed clasp on watches costing 3 to 4 times more than this one, I'm not going to judge this ZEZAME too harshly. Now, if you purchase a full set from ZEZAME online store, then we also get this really good quality padded leather strap with quick release spring bars and nicely sculpted branded buckle. And here is some more footage of how this watch wears on my about 7-inch wrist. Right, verdict time. While I did describe this watch as budget at the start of this review, there is nothing actually budget about it. Premium materials, solid build quality, and as for the design, I personally really like it. Classic stainless steel look with cool dial that really pops. And for about $145-ish US price on AliExpress, this timepiece competes really well with considerably more expensive brands. What are your thoughts? Well, do let us know in the comments. And of course, check out my playlist on the screen for more great value watch reviews. Don't forget to like this video and of course subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you for watching, take care, and I will see you in the next video.